in that very important city of Kabul, Afghanistan, and the beautiful campus that you have here at Occidental, the vibrant cities all around, and the challenges that I live with every day with hundreds of my colleagues in Kabul, and then hundreds more throughout the country as we're going to work to help Afghanistan. Kabul remains a war zone, even though it is safer than many parts of Afghanistan. And the contrast between the life that Afghans live every day there and the life that we get to enjoy, that you get to enjoy in the United States, is just tremendous. It's hard to explain it in words. It's good to watch when you get the chance to watch videos, to watch movies, to look at documentaries of what life is there. But it really is starkly different than even the toughest parts of the United States. In any case, after having been here now for my second time, I can certainly say that Obama decided to matriculate at Occidental. I can't yet figure out why he went to Columbia. I've been to Columbia, New York is a crowded place, but this is a beautiful campus, and I'm really happy to be here today. I'm going to try to talk a little bit about the current situation, the sort of very recent history in Afghanistan, and then I'll walk through three pillars of our policy: security, governance, and development, all of which have to work in order for us to have measures of success in what we're trying to do in Afghanistan. Work in Afghanistan for all of us is very intense. Many, many long hours every day, 7 days a week. I've been there since last June. It's a pleasure in many ways to be there. On the other hand, it's the most intense job I've had in my 35 years in the diplomatic corps. And I've had some pretty intense jobs other places. It is our top foreign policy priority as a country right now, and it really demands the fullest engagement from all of you, so I'm really happy that you're here. We all need to understand what this is about, and you can form your own opinions. It's what you think about it, but it is tremendously important for the United States. At this time, what's going to happen over the next year, over the next 2 years, will have a big impact indirectly, and maybe directly on some of you. You may have seen there have been a series of important events related to Afghanistan in recent months. We had a major conference in London on the 28th of January where 70 different countries and international organizations got together with the Afghans. President Obama gave a very important speech on December 1st of last year at West Point. His speech there not only announced a major troop increase, but also presented a vision of an enduring U.S.-Afghan partnership grounded in mutual respect and common purpose to take us into the future. The President's speech followed an unusually intense, deliberate, and far-reaching review of our policy in Afghanistan, which took months in 2009. It was a very serious look at the realities, the risks, and the options that were in front of us as we deal with Afghanistan and Pakistan, because you can't really talk about the two of them separately. They're so interlinked, almost like two different sides of the same coin. In fact, we have a phrase called AFPAC that we sometimes use to talk about the fact that they are linked together. They're different and distinct, but yet there's such an interconnection that you need to consider them together. As I said, this review was as exhaustive a review as I have seen in my diplomatic career. But at the end of it, we came out with a strategy that the President announced in that December 1st speech that has been accepted by the Afghans, by our partners in NATO, by our other partners who are there present on the ground in what's called the ISAF coalition, as presenting a good way forward, a solid way to proceed in Afghanistan. And then subsequently to that, at this conference that I mentioned in London, the Afghans presented their vision of the key policies in the sort of sectors of security, of governance and development that they believe are important for moving forward. Now what we're going to be doing over the next several months is taking those two visions and trying to put them together in a series of more detailed policy proposals, even as at the same time, as you know by reading newspapers or listening to radio or watching TV, there's a lot of activity going on in Afghanistan. We can talk a little bit about that. In Kabul, I served with an extraordinary team of diplomats and development specialists and civilian experts in many fields. We also worked very closely with the men and women in uniform throughout the country of Afghanistan, both in the capital, in the provinces, and in the districts, which are like counties. I think you've probably seen a lot of reporting coming out of Marja in Helmand province. This is the largest military operation since 2001-2002 period, going on right now in that part of southern Afghanistan to try to free up an area that has been dominated for several years now by the Taliban and a number of drug lords who were cooperating and coordinating together. Clearly, the U.S. military presence is much greater than the civilian presence, but there are about 1,500 or so civilians working throughout Afghanistan with our military colleagues. And that combined civilian-military effort is going to be key to whatever success that we have there. You can't, as General McChrystal, head of ISAF, often says, you can't win this from the barrel of the gun. The barrel of the gun may be important in getting you there, but it's not going to assure success. I hope some of you will be interested in enough in this conversation that you might want to consider, and you may already be considering, careers in diplomacy or development or security. And I'd be very happy to talk with you afterwards, particularly about the diplomatic channel of serving the country or serving the world from an international organization. Having chosen that myself, I think it's a tremendously rewarding way to go. But this public service in any of these areas can be really rewarding and really interesting. So I'd be happy to talk to you afterwards. Let me give a little recent history first. 2009 was a very challenging year for everybody who was involved in Afghanistan. For the 10 months from the inauguration of President Obama, January 20th, until the inauguration of President Karzai on November 19th, two things really overshadowed the Afghan election, or the Afghan agenda. The Afghan presidential election process and the growing insurgency in Afghanistan, and the strength of that insurgency. As you may remember, the Afghan election process itself was protracted and messy, but in the end, and in accordance with the Afghan constitution, President Karzai was re-elected and inaugurated, and was again the legitimate leader of that country. We deal with him on that basis, and so did the 70-plus countries and organizations that were present in London, the London Conference. And in fact, in a poll that was released in January, 71% of Afghans indicated that they also had a positive view of his performance. It's an interesting turnaround. You may remember there was a lot of press coverage during the election process of the flaws and messiness in that process. It was a messy process. But apparently in the Afghan view, that's now done, that's behind, there's president, they're looking to move forward.